Hi, this is Judy Gratton with John L. Scott, and today we are meeting up with my favorite lender, Robert Garrod from HomeSeed Loans in Bellevue. And we're getting together today because we wanted to talk a little bit about the market and how it has finally become something that is advantageous for buyers, although a lot of buyers may not see it that way. And so we want to talk about some of the different ways that buyers can win in this market and have reasonable payments and not have to bring as much down into closing. So, Robert, I wanted to, do you want to add anything to that before we get started?
Well, yeah, I mean, this market is definitely a little bit more leaning towards buyers right now. And as uh, everybody talks about rates rising
Mhm.
and the housing prices coming down a little bit, we are actually seeing buyers who are qualified get the home that they actually want right now with decent financing and actually better than average market rates right now with strategic financing. So I'm excited to talk about that.
I love that word strategic because I don't think people understand when they hear that a rate is something, six, six and a half, whatever, or they don't understand. Number one, that fluctuates on a daily basis, correct?
Oh yeah, it's daily and it's dependent on anything that happens in the world, not just the United States. So
Okay.
yeah.
And in addition to that, just because that rate is posted, if you're dealing with a creative lender who is really more of a consultant for you to help you find the best rate, that's not necessarily the rate that you're going to pay, what you saw posted in the newspaper today. Is that correct?
Of course. So, I mean, all my borrowers that have closed in the past couple weeks actually got at least a percent better than market rates when they closed because of the strategic financing that we were able to put in place during the offer process. So, it's very important that you have a lender who can guide you through the process as opposed to someone who is just going to say, hey, here's your rate for today, and you're approved for this much. You know, as a great example, I had somebody recently who was only approved for 1.14 and they wanted to put an offer for 1.2 million. And we were able to do some strategic financing to get him approved, not only approved for that, but he ended up paying a few $100s less a month than what
That's
he would have
perfect.
bought at 1.14 million with the current market rate. So the sellers were happy because they were able to sell the home for a little bit higher, and the buyers are extremely happy because they're actually getting a massive discount on that as well. So there are things that you can do, and it's very important you talk to someone who's going to help you get to where you want to be
Mhm.
and happy to where you want to be at. So for me, our rates are not going to be the lowest in the market. I mean, only one company can have the lowest rates in the market, right? I mean, always going to find somebody with lower rates. But if you have somebody who understands the market and understands how to strategically place your financing, you can get in with a below market rate with somebody who knows what they're doing and is at a higher priced company.
And I loved your example because when you can do a win-win situation in a contract, um, then everybody leaves happy. And
Yep.
that's always to me, that is the epitome of a successful transaction.
100%
So,
win-wins all across the board. I mean, you want to have your seller happy, your listing agent, your buying agent, your buyers happy, your lender happy, title escrow. Everyone's got to be happy because if they're not, then that transaction can either fall apart or someone is put in a bad position and not a non-sustainable loan or something that we don't want, right?
and what a lot of people don't understand is if they have gone to a lender and the lender says, okay, you're approved for 1.14, and then the interest rate ticks up, that interest rate will change that approval amount, or could change that approval amount. It could change it significantly. So you also need someone in your court, a lender and a realtor, who are like, are you the rates ticked up? Do you want to check? Or the lender's calling and saying maybe we better look at a different strategy to achieve what you're still wanting to achieve. So these are things that I so frequently run into people who are like, "Yeah, I got a rate on an online lender," and it's kind of like, "Ugh," because I know they're not going to be able to pick up the phone and call someone like you who actually is focused on making their transaction a success, when you're dealing with people that they're employees and they're there to answer the phone. They're not there to find the
Well, other your banks and your credit unions are doing a little bit more than just home loans, right?
Mhm,
So they're
mhm.
doing other things. So um, are 100% 24/7 focused on home loans here, right? So if you want to get to somewhere, we'll figure out how to get you there. If you're not there, we can come up with a plan to get you there. That's how we work here,
Yeah, and
It's
that's the other thing is that people don't understand when they go, "Oh, I can't do it. I don't have enough money saved, or I need to wait." Unless you actually sit down with a lender like you and talk about it, maybe right now isn't exactly correct, but you can come up with a plan that will get you to the point where then you can do it.
Yep.
And that doesn't cost them anything. So it's really a big plus if they can spend some time with you. I wanted, so we talked a little bit about interest rates and that, that they can be, you can make them better in several different ways. One of the things that I can do as a realtor is in negotiating the contract, we could conceivably ask for the seller to help buy down the rate. And you and I were talking earlier that it depends on the day as to how much that is needed to require. But buying down that rate can save them hundreds of dollars a month in payments over the
Yep.
long term, which is, I don't know anybody who would dislike that. I'm sorry, my grandfather clock is going to ding now.
It's 11, so there we
It's
go.
11, so here we go. 11 dings. But but then you and I have this great working relationship where you are offering my buyers what you refer to as the buyer benefit program. And I was wondering if you could maybe explain that a little bit. I'm going to mute now.
So the buyer benefit program, and we only have that available if you work with Judy and myself. Now, Judy can also be on the listing side of things. So it does help if you are listing your home. We can actually market this on your listing as buyer benefit eligible. So what the buyer benefit is basically stating that as you are working with one of my preferred agents. Judy is one of my preferred agents. Very, very few, one of three I have, really. So uh, if you work with Judy and myself, you would get a 0.5% discount towards your closing costs. And the reason that I do that for me is so I know that you're working with a qualified agent who's gonna strategize with me and understands what she's doing. And then also the reason that Judy has signed this is because she knows that if a client is coming through me and if I am giving out a pre-approval, she knows that we're going to close and we're going to close quickly. So it's a win-win-win all across the board. So the client gets a 0.5%. So on a $300,000 loan, that's $1,500. On $1 million loan, that's 5 grand. It is a good amount of money. And today that would buy you down about a 0.5 point, which is a really decent buy down. I know if there's any other lenders watching, they'd be like a 0.5 point to get you down a 0.5 point. Yeah, it's it's just a special pricing for today, I think. So, but you need to have a lender who understands how buy downs work and why they are the way that they are. Like where they're today, it is a much cheaper to buy down your rate. Why is that? There are reasons for that. Some days it might cost you 2 points to get down to get down a half a point in rate.
And you would
Um,
explain that on an individual basis to the people.
yeah, so you have to reach out
Yeah,
to
it's just
your
too
lender.
it's too much to try and cram it into our little session
Yeah,
here.
I get a little inside baseball there.
Yeah, but that 4,000, 5,000, $1,500, that can also be applied to their closing costs, which a lot of buyers don't understand that in addition to a down payment, they have closing costs.
Yep.
And they roughly, I've always said they run about 3% of the purchase price, would you say?
Depends on the purchase price of the
Okay,
house. 3% is a little high, I think,
okay,
if you're
okay.
going with today's market, just because of the prices are really high now.
Hmm.
So I would say, like on an $800,000 house, you're gonna have $8,000 in closing costs, but that's including your prepaids and reserves as well, which is your escrow that you have to fill, and then you're prepaying a month's rent, a month's payment. I almost said rent, a month's payment, and then you got some other things that you have to have reserves for the rest of the year. So. Uh, that generally is about half of your closing costs there, and then the other half is your third party fees, your lender fees, if there's any. And we have very little, and so
In
but
other
there
words,
are
how he gets
companies.
paid. So,
Yeah. So other companies have high fees, some places have lower fees. I mean, but yeah, the closing costs, you do have to come in with that sometimes, right? You can pick a higher rate to get that covered, or you can pick a lower rate to pay more to buy it down, right? You can
and
also get your
or and
seller.
or you can ask the seller to pick up some or sometimes all of the closing costs. These negotiation tactics have not been available for buyers for a couple of years. They've had to go higher. They've had to give up every contingency to even be considered on a home.
Yep.
But we have more inventory now. We You have more flexibility and choice now. And so working with a strategic team like Robert and I, you're going to end up with the best rate, the best, hopefully the best contract that we can negotiate for you. The importance of having people working together like we do that know what they're doing is huge because it saves you money. It gets you into a home and we care
Yep.
what happens, which is really, really important, I think. So that's just my thing.
It's huge. I mean, like clients, I love my clients. I still get messages from the ones that closed and showing me like the
Yeah.
improvements on their houses and everything that they do. And some, right now, a lot of them are asking for some cash or some money back. And I have to say, maybe not right now. Let's wait a little bit, right? So you want to have somebody who's not just going to be looking for the transaction and looking out for you too. So,
Right. Well, Robert, I'm gonna zip this up because we want to keep it short. But I was hoping maybe you could post your contact information for just a few seconds here if people want to take it down, and I will also add it as a
of
link
course,
in the blog. So if you go ahead and share that, let's see.
there we are.
You are okay.
There I am from a few
There you
years ago,
are. From what? From what?
from like 5 years ago,
Ah,
at
okay.
least.
And we are both talking about getting pictures today. So,
Yeah, new pictures soon,
yeah.
hopefully.
Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and I really appreciate your time. And I hope that some buyers and sellers got some information here that they can use in the future, and hopefully they'll reach out to us. So,
Yeah, of course. Well, reach out to us or at your trusted advisors in the area, and we look forward to taking care of you.
super, Robert. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
I
much. You have a good
appreciate
day.
it. All right. Take
We'll
care.
talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.